Live. Hello, 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 everyone.
Hello
Although
everyone,
there is no one
welcome
happy.
to the भाई हमारे तीन तीन व्यूअर्स तो आ ही सकते थे यार जो तीन लोग हैं नहीं आज दिस
हाँ
तो
बताओ.
बट
We
वेलकम टू
have
द
we have shrunk from 5 to 2, but in the
पोस्ट
in the
भाई लिटरली आज मौका था टू हैव बन टिक्की ऑन द पॉड मैं इतना डिसअपॉइंटेड हूँ कि देयर
hmm,
इज लाइक four of the members are in Dehradun and there is zero bantikkis on the pod today. I'm very upset.
भाई हम जब दिल्ली आए थे तब भी हम यही डिस्कस कर रहे थे. हम बन टिक्की ला सकते थे देहरादून से, बट कोई
भाई
नहीं. लेट्स.
चूच को बोल नानी के घर से बन टिक्की लेते हुए आए.
भाई वो बन टिक्कियाँ ही खा रहा होगा पक्का वहां पे बैठ के.
मोमोज खा रहा होगा भाई.
यस.
तो
अब मेरे को पता नहीं जो एक व्यूअर है, इज इट वन ऑफ अस या इज इट someone from our regular watchers. Anyway,
बट
whoever is there, happy Diwali to you.
बट आई थिंक मतलब फेयर 2 out of 5 है because that will allow us to get through today's topics जिसमें से obviously the bigger topic is this week. Unfortunately, Diwali की वजह से we couldn't touch upon it separately, which I think it deserves a separate pod on its own. क्योंकि I think हमने इतना डिस्कस कर लिया था already in the first 9 game weeks की it just felt inevitable. But coming to the topic of Ten Hag is no more, मतलब not in like a negative sense, but Ten Hag or oh, and speaking of the devil or the baldy, so we have Eric Ten Hag in the chat. I think
Ten
that's where
Hag,
he is after being
Ten
sacked
Hag, I
from
hope your
United.
contributions in chat are much more than what your recent contributions were for United.
But I think just opening thoughts on like when Ten Hag was sacked. I think Monday news broke or Tuesday. I don't remember. But what were your first thoughts, and have those thoughts changed, if at all?
So यार, मतलब if you remember ऐसे I मतलब I was pissed off after the West Ham game. It was a Sunday actually, and yeah, मतलब the news came on Monday only actually, the next day. So I was pissed off. Mostly that was due to the pathetic refereeing. I don't want to get there again because I think obviously Ten Hag sacking is a much bigger news than poor refereeing, and poor refereeing is like just your regular thing in Premier League these days. So I think I was at that time pretty sure he does really well to keep it, and I think that's the exact same text I sent in the group also. He does very well to keep his job from after that game. I mean, it was not so. There were a lot of things that in that game only proved me कि मतलब if मतलब he was anyways living by the game, and if not this game, maybe the next game. तो वो होना ही था, and maybe yeah, the West Ham game just kind of added fuel to fire. A game which we should have easily won probably. But yeah, another one of
But
those
I think,
what ifs, what ifs.
but I think like because we've discussed it multiple times, and based on my impressions, I think you and both Sats have been pretty Ten Hag in rather than Ten Hag out. And I've seen a lot of review discussions, and I think the fan base is also largely split into two fractions, right? One is ki Ten Hag was hopeless and there was no hope, and secondly is that changing the manager is not going to solve anything, and that is because this is a cultural problem that is there at United. You have been very vocal about the players are also very much at fault. There have been claims that the structure behind the manager is also not the best. So, matlab, are you still, matlab, Ten Hag, as you're right, like, वो West Ham, that's what my impression also is. Ki like West Ham wala wasn't the worst performance of this season, right? Like there were worse performances. The Liverpool match comes to mind. The Tottenham match comes to mind. And तब there was this entire sentiment that Ten Hag has this amazing backing क्योंकि ownership ने सब कुछ change कर दिया. Now they're giving him a long leash where he has a lot of time to implement everything in like a stable structure. So what suddenly changed? Matlab West Ham, what you also said, right? Like it was one very very poor referee decision. Is it? मतलब क्या वो इतना फिकल था द सपोर्ट कि वो एक रेफरी डिसीजन की वजह से सारा प्लान उन्होंने फाड़ के लाइक आई मीन दैट इज समथिंग दैट आई डोंट गेट.
यार मतलब नहीं मतलब आई थिंक मुझे लगता है आई एम नॉट मतलब he could have gotten another game if it was 1-1 rather than a 1-2. But मतलब underlying ऐसे मतलब I think मतलब we've seen the Premier League enough. You've supported Chelsea, who's like has had its fair share of like manager turnovers. United in the recent years has not been very stable with respect to managers. So we just know when a manager's time has probably come to an end. मतलब, you just know मतलब, the manager is not going to be able to turn it around. I think मतलब, a lot of things were very similar from previous games. One thing was United don't turn up to games. मतलब, first half excellent. मतलब, I would say as I said, मतलब, in terms of chance creation, not purely the result. I would say the first half was good. मतलब, on any other day, Garnacho doesn't hit the bar. He finds the back of the net. Dallo doesn't miss that sitter. Probably Bruno also scores. So United are 3-0 up. ठीक है, even if you don't take all three chances, which are all three good scoreable chances, maybe United is 2-0 up. United puts the game to bed. Second half, United just don't turn up. Somerville comes on. He just changes the game single handedly, scores a goal. Then, matlab, he just has United on the back foot. Now, one thing which I was never able to fathom under Ten Hag in these recent games or these recent matches was कि why are you not able to turn up? Why do you have to be 1-0 down to bring up that
Yeah.
motivation? You see United's second half, मतलब pathetic second half. As soon as they go a goal down, they suddenly have that push. I'm not sure from where, and they equalize probably within the next 5-10 minutes through Casemiro. मतलब, I don't understand that point. Ki why do you have to be a goal down to kind of have that injection of rhythm and all those things? Which I think, मतलब, all these things are just saying ki मतलब, you are just trying to you're not having that motivation from within to play for this manager properly or play for this club. I'm not sure. You just have to maybe कि भी यार manager की respect है जो भी है, you have to मतलब just trying to save his job or whatever. मतलब ऐसी performance should come from the starting whistle, right? Not like जब तुम 1-0 down हो या जो भी. So I think a lot of these things culminated in kind of Ten Hag maybe just being told कि यार नहीं, and it was not an easy kind of let go. Amorim coming in has cost United 10 million pounds or euros. I'm not sure.
But
Whatever.
I think so. Amorim, I think Amorim. We'll come to it in a bit. But sticking to the Ten Hag part, so I think we've discussed it a couple of times. It was very visible that Ten Hag was lucky to save his job last season. Like only that FA Cup win took him to, and matlab, fair enough, right? Like that result on its own made him last a further 9 games, right? Matlab, that is the kind of confidence he kind of inspired. Because honestly, that last season was also not the best, right? Like you would also be the first to admit. But now this is where the problem is, right? Like you've backed him, but you've not backed him wholeheartedly. Like आपको अंदर से पता था that that wasn't your first choice. That's why the board interviewed a lot of other candidates. नहीं हुआ, didn't find it, and then also backed him a lot in the transfer window. Like those were players that Ten Hag wanted, right? Like, obviously, Dillit is a great player and he's now playing well. But Baki players, I don't know if any other manager would go for players like Zirkzee, who's been pretty shaky. Mazurai, I mean, decent player, but like he was signed because of the Ten Hag vision. And now a new manager is going to come in, and Sporting plays very differently to what Ten Hag plays. Like it's three at the back, very different. So that is the new manager. But you've backed him with 200 million. Plus, there's all this real undertone of United wanting to cut back on finances, right? कि मतलब most recently the SAF payments of 2 million, right? और उस सब में आप you have now this 200 million that you've just spent, which may or may not work out with the new manager's style of play. You are going to pay a lot more to Ten Hag as compensation. You're going to be paying, and so, मतलब, from a neutral perspective, it just makes it really weird. या तो आप बोलो कि आपको ये सबसे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, राइट? कि जो चेल्सी मॉडल है कि भाड़ में जाए पैसा, मतलब 20 लग रहे हैं 40 दे दो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है. बट when you have this mentality, and this is what we are seeing at other clubs right now, like Newcastle, etc., कि जहाँ पे फाइनेंशियल एलिमेंट स्टार्ट टेकिंग ओवर एंड देन एम्बिशन बहुत ज्यादा पीछे चला जाता है, क्योंकि अब आपने यार पैसा वेस्ट हो गया, एंड देन यू स्टार्ट बिकम बीइंग वेरी फ्रूगल, लाइक, so मतलब I'll come to my follow up question, but thoughts on this?
Uh, yeah, मतलब agreed. United's new ownership has been adamant कि we are not going to make the same mistakes of the old ownership. कि we are not going to be someone who's infamous for just leaking money and wasting money. See, मतलब the argument could come against me कि क्यों यार अभी भी तो इस विंडो में भी इतना पैसा खर्चा है on transfers, but मतलब I think most players United bought. I, I wouldn't say cheap, but I also wouldn't say they overpaid for a lot of players, which was guilty with probably the Anthony signing, for example, or maybe a lot of other example signings have
Sancho
been there
signing.
in the past. Sancho signing, yeah, exactly. So that was one part, but yeah, Abhi, the thing is, ki, matlab, what was the alternative? Ten Hag was given the job, he stays there. So I think so I was going through the stats. I'm not picking on Ten Hag. I even till his last day I was still hoping ki he does turn a leaf and maybe he's able to turn it around. But pata nahi, I think it was at I think the West Ham game was just a prime example of how even with good football, there have been multiple instances this season. Yeah, the Porto game being 2-0 up, throwing a 2-0 lead. Again in the next game, Fenerbahce also being 1-0 up, playing really good away from home in a European game and still not being able to win it. The Crystal Palace game, loads of chances, not able to score a goal. The Villa game, again, a nil-nil looked like a good result, but now the West Ham game, loads of chances, not able to score a goal. I think even the ownership saw कि there is a lot of similar repeated wo. And if you go at the underlying stats, United is I think 16th or 17th in terms of goals scored, in terms of shots
Yeah, yeah.
conceded. Since last season, they are probably the worst team. And all these numbers, and I think United finished off at a better league position than the expected league position which was there. So all these numbers kind of proved that Ten Hag's numbers stats are also not great. Yeah, agreed. The FA Cup came to his rescue. He was able to mastermind a win over, over Guardiola of all people. But yeah, I think if you ask in hindsight, I think definitely that was the better time to let him go without the new contract. Maybe would have given Amorim a full season and a transfer window. But
Mm, mm, I think that is, yeah.
ठीक है, Alu bhai will
Sorry,
come at
Anu bhai.
Amorim's. Welcome to the
Yeah,
stream. I will come at Amorim style. If you have any points about Ten Hag and where he went wrong, probably we'll like to hear more of that as well.
but but if you had to like summarize, like coming to your question, like where did Ten Hag go wrong, right? Like, I mean, ठीक है, क्योंकि we've looked at performances, but now we are saying कि results are what got him sacked, right? Like, jabki it was probably the performances that kind of deserve the sack. Like, maybe he could have been sacked after the Liverpool game or the Tottenham game, which were much worse of performances. But you still stuck with him, and yeah, I think also the other side is, I think the ownership really wanted to back him. Like, as a board, they wanted Ten Hag to succeed. They were not waiting कि अरे कब when Ten Hag is going to fail. I think they wanted to back him. That's why they backed him in the summer transfer window. But I think it just reached to this tipping point. You're talking about goals scored, shots conceded, where it just things were like really bad. And if you would let it continue for, let's say, another few matches, you could have been in a really miserable position. And then it would have been very difficult for a new manager to also come in and lift up the mood. If you would have been like, it's a 16th or 17th, for example. But what is you're just basically dealing a very poor hand to the new manager also. But coming to the question, where do you think Ten Hag has gone wrong? Like 2.5 years he was at the club. He's had some very good moments. United have won two trophies. I think the FA Cup win really springs to mind, which was honestly nobody expected. Like everyone was like, City jeet jayega. Like that was the mood, and like United played really well that day. Usse pehle you won the Carabao Cup. So those were the good points. But maybe we can spend some time on that. Like, what were some of the highlights of the Ten Hag tenure for you as a fan?
So highlights definitely I would say. So first season bringing top four to a squad which has matlab, over the years shown ki they're not the easiest to deal with, and probably towards the end of the Ten Hag era, he himself would have realized that he's not able to bring out the best of these so-called very very good and a few world-class players. I think the Carabao Cup, bringing a trophy after 6 years to a club like United, who's always been pampered with trophies, and it was a big thing. I think it was like the Mourinho coming back again, in that sense. Like Mourinho also brought back that philosophy. So the last year's FA Cup win, although the league was pretty abysmal, the league form and how we played in the league. But yeah, even I was myself very surprised to see United win. But obviously, it was a very big moment. And I think that was the catalyst for him to kind of take the club forward rather than backward. I'm not sure what matlab, what so even for the club and for the players, it should have been like a stepping stone for better things, good signings. All signings were done in a relatively better fashion rather than like jumping onto players on the deadline day. I think
Yeah,
all these were kind of positives only. I think in the first season, dealing with all the egoistic kind of matlab, the high profile kind of players, not having I, I, I think having to deal with a player like Ronaldo in your first season and kind of bringing top four to the club, and in addition to that, a trophy was a good first season. I think Ten Hag achieved. Last season was marred by a lot of injuries. He still managed to bring us the FA Cup.
yeah.
So I think all these were pretty good highlights, of his kind of reign at United, I would say.
Yeah, and I think like it's no coincidence that there have been a significant drop in form of. I think the season that you finished top four was the last season where Rashford was consistently good, Bruno was consistently good, and like when your top players have like a steady decline in their form, it obviously affects on the pitch, right? And I think Bruno is a classic representation of that. Hmm. But yeah, that's what Eric Ten Hag.
I wasn't
Yeah,
that bad. Sometimes
very
you do rubbish.
interesting point by Eric Ten Hag himself that he wasn't that bad. Sometimes you need trophies. ये disturbance मेरे end पे है क्या?
नहीं नहीं पीछे भी पटाखे वटाखे फूट रहे पीपल
ओह
हैव
अच्छा
दिस दिवाली क्रेज
भाई भाई रोको भाई उनको भाई क्या कर रहे हैं so
हम्म
sometimes you need trophies to bring you back and we won more trophies than managers who are in peak like Arteta so getting sacked is bad हाँ मतलब this is a very मतलब, not a controversial statement but facts right like Ten Hag has more trophies than Arteta and like Arteta is now being this amazing coach who's like the next Guardiola etc but like and now Ten Hag is sacked and I'm sure it ended on a bad note right like but are trophies good enough for Club United like वो भी नहीं है मतलब that's what he said like winning the first trophy after 6 years 2017 के बाद 2023 में he won the trophy but that's also not good enough so मतलब what are the expectations right now मतलब like how does a manager when we can then come on to Almiron but how how does a manager treat this? Matlab,
I think, matlab, I think we touched upon it in the podcast earlier as well. Ki United is not a club who is kind of, matlab, being going to be judge or manager at United is going to be judged on purely his cup performances. Matlab, United is not like a cup team, right? Matlab, see, any team could have like a spirited cup run and it could maybe even go to the finals. I'm not taking away anything from Ten Hag's cup wins. I think those were still special wins and important wins, I think, in United's history. FA Cup is no small cup by any means of imagination. But I think if you're just going to do well in the cups, I think United is bound for another good cup run this year. We anyways reach the quarters again this Carabao Cup. I think you're going to be judged more on how your league form is. And see, we have touched upon it, right? Malab, Arteta has lesser trophy than Ten Hag, but still, why is no one on Arteta out and why was everyone pushing for Ten Hag sacking? I think that's because Arte- Arteta's philosophy has been really bought into by the Arsenal players. They're kind of buying into it, and that's why it's reflecting in their title charges year on year. United, on the other hand, I think as good a tactical manager Ten Hag was, and as how much he used to claim that he's a serial winner, which I agree. matlab, I'm not denying on in that, but I think one of the bigger issues with Ten Hag was he was not able to instill his philosophy into the United players.
um,
I think very very few players you would see bought into that philosophy, and matlab,
yeah,
it was always that wonder kind of single-handed performance. Maybe the 4-3 against Liverpool last year, where
yeah,
probably even the cup final performance, right? The entire team just somehow punched much above their weight and brought home the result. So, matlab, I think for a longer term vision, you have to have people buying into philosophy, and that does not make Ten Hag a bad coach. I think it also could mean that it's a part and parcel of both things. Ten Hag is not able to communicate better to his players. Maybe it's a thing about, maybe it's a language problem. I don't know. matlab, Could very well be something like that, right? Maybe he's not able to, because the issue can't be the players. Also, he's bought a lot of
yeah,
his ex Ajax players as well, right? So
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think in Ten Hag's case, I think like chat maybe I like it's not the results that kind of like paper over the performances, right? Like, and some of the performances have been really bad during the Ten Hag era, right? Like losing 7-0 at home to Liverpool. Matlab, that's like we talked about the highlights, but that was like one of the lowest points in United in like United's history, right? Like losing at home 7-0 to your biggest rival.
away tha
Uh,
वैसे भी.
sec away tha? Okay, sorry. So and
But yeah,
secondly on and the fact that the Champions League performances weren't the best. And वही priority होता है ना, you can't have your priority कि I want to win the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, that are not priorities at the start of the season. It's like finish as high as possible in the league, then Champions League or let's say Europa League. फिर आएगी cup. And I think Carabao Cup तो maybe will come lower than FA Cup also, right? So मतलब even though it's good to win and it's always good to win matches in cup competition, but it can't paper over your performances in the league, which are like वही एक बात हुई थी ना हमारी कि like would it be better if let's say United wins the Europa League and finishes let's say 10th in the Premier League? It isn't, because league is a better reflection of where you are in terms of your consistency, and that's where I think Arteta scores more points than Ten Hag because they've been second to City and like an amazing City team, and they've been consistently. I mean, they lost the league by 2 points. यार मतलब 2 points क्या होता है? So I think that's where I think Arteta gets more credit, and that is there. But I think coming to what kind of state United is in, and मतलब how is a new manager like hope क्या है, right? Like मतलब you've touched upon it कि मतलब players कभी perform करेंगे नहीं करेंगे. अभी they played really well against Leicester, and मतलब everyone's asking कि भाई ये सब कहाँ था, मतलब where was all of this like
hmm.
even a week ago? So is this just like too sporadic in nature कि अभी अच्छा खेल लिए 4-5 मैच अच्छा खेल लिए but like back to the same old and मतलब new manager is going to be dealing with the same cultural issues, the same player mentality, and matlab, how is it going to change matlab, from a player perspective?
I think ये क्वेश्चन तो बहुत लोग आंसर ढूंढ रहे हैं. Much more than me, probably the people who have a lot of vested
Mhm.
interest in the club in monetary terms, the ownership, the board. I think they are seeking answers to this for a while now. The new ownership maybe still less so, but yeah, I think matlab, for any manager he has his task. Matlab, he doesn't have his task easy. I think matlab, I am kind of happy that Amorim agreed to join. I think Amorim, if anything, he's like the next kind of. I'm not saying the next big thing, but he's pretty highly regarded outside the top five leagues in Europe. I think his sporting team is doing excellent this season. I saw their track record. I think Gyökeres as a striker, I mean, he's able to use him really well. They've won all 9 games this season. They've not lost in the Champions League. They've 7 points out of 3 games. Very excited to see how his team plays against City this week in the Champions League. But I think my point was I think Ten Hag does well to bring his career back on track. I'm not saying I'm pretty sure no big team is going to hire him immediately after this United thing. So you get it right from being like the best European manager 3 years back before joining United. His stocks have fallen
Yeah,
drastically, right? So I think that's one thing
yeah,
any new manager has to deal or has to keep in mind before coming to United. The Amorim is very similar to Ten Hag. A lot of people are saying कि
yeah,
what different is Amorim than Ten Hag? Ten Hag was the same 3 years back. It's just that now he's lost his woe. I think one thing maybe Amorim can do, if I can talk about it, is I think learn from Ten Hag's mistakes. I think Ten Hag was at times pretty rigid. I think okay, it's not bad to have a big ego, but you need to also back it by a lot of like Mourinho having a big ego is understandable.
yeah.
He had everything to back him, right? I think Amorim doesn't seem like a very egoistic person that way. Let's see. I saw his interviews. Surprisingly, he's pretty fluent in English. I think he might be still easier to put his points across to the team. And I think
Yeah.
these things matter a lot. They look like small things, but matter करता है यार, how you're able to kind of put your point across. I think that is one thing.
Hmm.
एक बात तो for sure है यार, if these players again throw Amorim under the bus as well, we might see a big cultural change at United. Might see a whole overhaul of players rather than just the manager itself this time. So, yeah.
But I think like the we can move on to Amorim's appointment. So how do you feel about this appointment? And as you said, like it's very similar to a Ten Hag. I remember like everyone was really excited about Ten Hag, and like he had also got a good reputation that he's built up over the years. And like also Ten Hag has a much more experience that he came with to the club, right? Like Amorim hasn't been at that level for a really long time. So how do you feel about Amorim's appointment? What are your thoughts?
I think out of the other potential replacements being quoted, whatever, be it be it Tuchel some time back, or be it now Gareth Southgate, or maybe Graham Potter even, or Xavi, I'm not sure. So I think out of all of them, I think I liked Amorim's appointment purely from the fact कि I'm not sure if you know about it, but City board were kind of seeing him as the long-term replacement for Pep, and there's a lot of there's not like just another rumor, and there's a lot of concreteness behind this. Liverpool had targeted him, but apparently I think they
Yeah,
left his pursuit because he was very adamant he's going to play a back three. That's his style, and very much like Van Hal. I think when he was like, I will play with a back three. Not going to change with that. That's a mantra that works for me. I think that's one reason they dropped his pursuit. So he was kind of chased by a lot of big clubs during the summer itself. Maybe not United. United maybe didn't see him. maybe fit enough from the Premier League for the Premier League. Or maybe they just saw maybe Ten Hag is still able to kind of correct whatever is wrong. But now I think being able to get another manager out of their club is mid-season is not easy. That obviously United is seeing, having to pay him off and all those things. So, matlab, I have to be excited about Amorim's appointment. Yeah, matlab, his stats, if nothing, at Sporting are very good, and matlab, if he can bring maybe even one third of it at United in terms of quality of play, I think the points will just be a byproduct of it. Points will come eventually. I think as fans we can't be very greedy and say कि नहीं भाई अब तो टॉप फोर ले आ तेरे को वन थर्ड ऑफ द सीजन तो मिल ही रहा है अभी भी राइट तो मतलब इट्स नॉट अ फेयर assumption. Maybe he can try a good deep run in the cups, one of the cups, maybe try targeting one of the Europa leagues, but any expectations anything apart from that from Amrim is very unfair on him till he probably gets a window or something of his own. Because see, if he's going to play with three centre backs, he needs three quality centre backs. I think United
Yeah.
has centre backs good quality, but matlab, three of them I'm not sure. Maguire is already someone who was not really being being kept in terms of a lot of maybe having a lot of a big future at United. So let's see. Matlab,
Yeah. Right. So, matlab, do you expect the United to play three at the back under Amorim?
I think he's going to stick to his formation. I think so. From what I found earlier, from what I was seeing is he's never changed his kind of tactical formation in his 4 years of management. Highly doubt him. Highly doubt he'll change it at United as well. Though, especially at a club which is in like a kind of turmoil state. Matlab, he's not going to risk. He's not going to risk kind of putting his
Yeah, but like
reputation as well
the
immediately.
the 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 data set is also smaller, right? Like matlab, he was at Braga for a year, but his entire managerial career has been at Sporting itself, and which is in the a very different league. And matlab, maybe those kind of players were more suited to three at the back. And also we've seen that three at the back doesn't really work in the Premier League anymore. Like एक time था under Conte when like three at the back was like the thing, but like even Tuchel had three at the back. But I think you lose out based on my experience when Tuchel played it at Chelsea for those 2 years, Conte के साथ, like you lose out a lot more on the attacking side of it. You're defensively very, very good, but you lose out quite a bit on attack. And I think now defenses in the Premier League are very adept to playing three at the back. So I mean that'll be क्योंकि वो wing back वाला play I don't see that happening a lot in the Premier League anymore. So I think that will be something. And also like चलो let I think let's take this as a question. Happy Diwali Prathamesh bhai. Happy
हैप्पी
Diwali.
दिवाली प्रथमेश. हम सोच ही रहे थे आप आज नहीं
Eh,
आज स्ट्रीम में. आलू भाई एंड प्रथमेश all ever presents in the stream. So इस बार यार कम है लोग. Everyone
thanks.
is busy celebrating Diwali. So
Thanks guys. So but three at the back पे if let's say so anyway Chelsea United game we'll come to later. But if three at the back is what Amorim decides to go at, like what do you expect to be the starting 11?
हाँ, so on the three, एक second. यार मुझे लगता है he's going to start with the three at the back. If it doesn't work like you're saying, so maybe he switches. But abhi I think it's too risky
Yeah,
for him as well. For him to
true.
change his formation at a club which
Yeah,
is not in like if he was starting of the season, I would still think he would give it a go. Maybe he gets a couple of games. Abhi he's starting at two games, Maharega United is going to get on top of fans are going to get on top of him as well. So I think he's going to
mm.
stick to what his mantra is, what he feels comfortable with, and maybe progressively if he's able to instill that philosophy, maybe he changes. But yeah, I think three at the back, me you need three solid centre backs. You can't. There's no Shaw also. Maybe you could have done that left centre back role, but I think I think the first three there's no Euro, so have Maguire or Evans or Lindelof, whoever is fit, preferably Maguire, will play in that three, and then other two obviously are going to be Martinez
Yeah, I
and
think
Delip. So
What about the wing backs?
यार तो the wing backs in terms of वैसा ही looks like मतलब अभी तो मतलब I'm not sure where the left backs are right now for United. Every time they're back to fitness, there's some one of them or the both of them get injured. I think yeah, मतलब Dallo seems like a good choice for a right wing back. Purely from the fact that he's not the most reliable defensively, but offensively, even
Mm.
though he missed that sitter, but still offensively he's a good
Yeah,
he's good on the ball. So I think
yeah,
perfect fit for a right wing back. You don't have to defend much. You can
yeah.
you can attack a lot. So I think and left wing back, one of the two have to kind of fill in. So आज वन टिक्की बहुत खाली है.
बन टिक्की वाले सारे बन टिक्की खा रहे हैं.
हाँ,
Yeah.
Prathamesh, they're kind of paying tribute to our name of the pod, and that's why they're all eating bun tikki. Eric Ten Hag has a genuine question, and that is, what do you think about my future? 17 million एक साल में खत्म करके कहाँ जाऊँ?
नहीं, I think यार Ten Hag have as a like I think United job is not the only job he's been at, right? Like so there would still be clubs who would be willing to sign him up. I think he can always go back to the Dutch league. He'll probably find a team there. I think there would be clubs in the Premier League who would also take him. I mean,
But I don't think he goes to
uh,
a top club immediately after this, I guess, right?
yeah, yeah, pretty sure. I think maybe West Ham might sign him. Matlab, barring this result, they've been pretty woeful. And like I think this match saved Lopetegui's job also. So maybe Ten Hag. And I think interestingly, like Almiron was interviewed for the West Ham job last year when
Hmm.
David Moyes was going to be sacked. So I mean, like that is the style of club. I'm sure he'll find a new job. I'm sure he'll take a break. Abhi. I was reading that he was very shocked with the sacking news. Like he wasn't expecting that. Like I just read that somewhere. I don't think he goes to Barca, but I think he go back to some good club. West Ham seems like a good call.
I
Yeah,
doubt he'll go to
Dortmund.
Bayern.
पता नहीं बायर्न कुछ भी करती रहती है अभी आजकल लाइक कंपनी को साइन कर
हाँ,
लिया
वैसे
था मिड
Company was also
साइन
a relegated manager, तो true, but हाँ, true.
एंड मतलब टेन हैग like he was not like sacked because of like pathetic showing. He was sacked because things were not going as per plan. I think that is, I think, the caveat here. So now we were on the team, right? So we have key wing backs, mein, whoever is fit enough. Right now it's Mazaroy and let's say Dalot, they play. Midfield too, matlab, would it be Casemiro and Ericsson?
I think he's not going to trust Ericsson. His kind of gameplay is very intense. He's a lot Klopp-esque in that sense. He, he's a lot about high energy football and pressing. I think Ericsson though is anything but. I would highly doubt if Ericsson starts the first game under wo. I think Ugarte for sure is going to be a starter. He was under Sporting. Ugarte got his breakthrough under under Amorim at
Yeah.
Sporting. So I think Ugarte definitely is a starter. I think Menu when he comes back, Menu is also a very a very
Yeah.
Amorim kind of player. I think for the time being, probably Casemiro and Ugarte, even though it becomes very defensive. But yeah, matlab, maybe Bruno can sit in that eight position. But yeah, let's see. Matlab, and I think
Three at
Hoyland
the
is
back,
a
man, it's very three at the back, man, it's very difficult to see Bruno in the midfield too. And I think like that's another follow-up question. Like three at the back doesn't have a role for a number 10, right? Like that's the kind of position that Bruno is most optimized as. You need two wingers and then like a striker. And so I think Bruno would become a massive misfit in a any three at the back formation actually.
but matlab, I think Bruno is too good a player matlab, to leave out for any manager. He's Portuguese as well.
Yeah.
I think not that it matters much, but I think the Portuguese manager would know the best how to get the best out of Bruno. I think probably he deploys him along with Ugarte maybe to start off with. I'm not sure because in any of the front three probably he's not the quickest to kind of form one of those wing plays. And
Yeah.
even in Amorim Sporting, the wingers were Trincao and I forgot the other winger, but they were both pacey kind of wingers, and the striker was also like a unit kind of striker, not like a false nine or whatever.
Gyökeres.
So yeah, Gyökeres. So I think मतलब Gyökeres का replacement kind of here at United is Hoyland. Maybe not as prolific, whatever, but I think Amorim can maybe use him well. So मतलब maybe the wings
I
though.
think, yeah, but I think like it'll be because you're obviously going to have one less attacker, right? And like in the team that has been playing recently, uh, yeah, I think Xerxes though is anyway second choice to Hoyland in any case.
Hmm.
But I think Garnacho is someone who kind of gets dropped, and well, he's been one of the I think big success stories of the Ten Hag era, like because Garnacho got his big break under Ten Hag, and I think this season he's been really good. One of the very bright spots. Kalbi, I think he scored a goal in the League Cup,
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
and he's been pretty good overall. He misses a lot of chances. I think that's what a lot of United fans. But he's also very young, right? So I think he's also learning. But I think he's been one of the big stories, and he probably misses out in the three at the back system. Because you're right, Fernandez has to play. He's probably United's best player, and Rashford stays up because he's a good winger that they have. But I think it'll be interesting to see what Amorim. But I think just the point is what you also mentioned that coming about 30% into the season, so much pressure already at a United job, and then now looking at the league table where United is, right? So those are, I think, going to be big challenges for Amorim. How he's going to you know, kind of figure this all together. He has to like instill his new style of play, whether it be three at the back or whatever he decides to play, but in like a really short amount of time. Right now, United is 14th in the league, and I think he's going to join after the international break. Is that correct, or is he going to
He's
be
going to join
continuing?
before, but he's going to manage obviously after the like he's going to get the international break
Um,
with whatever players are kind of not going
so
to international.
and you don't know like where United will be when he joins, right? Like it's right now 14th. It could be better, it could be worse, but कुछ पता
Hmm.
नहीं है. It depends a lot on Van Nistelrooy's
Chelsea
new
are
manager
told.
bounce.
Chelsea at
हाँ
Old Trafford. Maybe we can we can step into that discussion with this point. I mean,
क्या है.
he's joining on 11th. Yes. Yeah. Hi, Rupesh. All मतलब मेरे को एक बार सबसे opinion लेने थे यार. What do you feel about Ten Hag sacking in the chat? Where do you think he went wrong? Maybe we can touch upon that once before we move into the Chelsea discussion. And kind of do you think it firstly it was justified or not? मतलब purely as a neutral, not with your vested interest. कि as a rival fan, we are kind of disappointed he was sacked. So
Hmm. Yeah, तो till we get more thoughts into the chat. मेरे opinions on this. Yeah, so I think getting him to stay on at the end of the season was pretty fickle. Uh, I don't think the FA Cup win was that huge that he kind of merited an extension because overall finishing eighth in the league was not the best. And there were a lot of signs that things were not okay. The 7-0 loss, right? Again, that was in March. So, like, just that FA Cup win, which was like did not paper over the cracks, and that kind of continued into the season. Secondly, I think a big question mark we asked here on the pod every week, and everyone also asked like, what is Ten Hag's style of play? You just couldn't see that United team and tell what is Ten Hag trying to do. Like, so I think that was a very very big problem, and I think that has been a problem for 2.5 years. You can't be here in this position after 2.5 years and still not be able to answer, or people are not able to make out what United style of play is. Is it counter attacking? Is it like who is United's best 11? मतलब बहुत basic questions are which a manager needs to answer like really quickly. And Ten Hag was really struggling to answer. But I mean, it's obviously sad for him to go, and I think like Almorim is going to find it very difficult. I think the step up from the league is very tough. We've seen Slot do it, but I'm not sure how easy it is going to be for Almorim. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, personally, देखते हैं. I mean, I wish him the best, and I hope he does well. But I think it's very difficult for him to come into this mid-season, and he's been, मतलब, oof, मैं तो, and I think like we were talking about like stepping up from the low league. So like Slot did it like coming from a different league, but I think he had the benefit of getting a lot of time. So he got like this massive preseason, but also like he knew since a really long time that he was coming into this job, so he had been able to prepare everything. And even though he did not have any signings, I think he was able to implement his style of play very early on. I think that's what you like to see from a manager. And like some of the managers that are doing well at this time, who are new into the job, Maresca, uh, to a certain extent, Slot to the highest extent, you need that time. And United में that time anyway is at a premium, right? Like you don't get this amount of time कि अरे अपना style खिलाओ etc. Results are what matters, and like if things don't go well at the start, you're anyway starting behind the eight ball. Like मतलब as you said, पहले दो तीन matches में if results don't go your way, and league tough ही है यार. मतलब it's not there are no easy games. So then what do you do? Like, and plus, Almiron is really inexperienced also. Like, ye concern I've had with Maresca also, when things don't start going your way, you don't have anything to rely on. Like, you have your sporting experience, but वहाँ पे you've had a really successful wo, and like they had their bumps in the Champions League, and they weren't able to perform against the very best, right? Like league में they were superior to everyone, but Champions League mein they weren't able to compete, and they did try their best. So I mean, I wish him the best, but I think it's going to be very difficult for him, especially coming in at this stage also. If he was coming in at the start of the season, I would be very bullish on like him and he kind of implementing it.
Yeah, yeah, right. चैट के पास एक पॉइंट है, शान मसूद अमरिम को बाबर रैशफोर्ड और रिस्वान शॉ को ड्रॉप करना चाहिए, देन यूनाइटेड विल बी बैक ऑन ट्रैक. बट मोहम्मद
uh,
हफीज इनियोस में दिमाग नहीं है. व्हाई मोहम्मद हफीज? आई एम नॉट श्योर. मोहम्मद हफीज
यार
क्या वो है पाकिस्तान
10
का?
अबे वो कुछ किसी को वहाब रियाज सिलेक्टर था, अब हफीज को बनाते हो भाई. काफी इन्वॉल्व इन पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट लग रहे हैं यार, मतलब रुपेश भाई और एरिक टन है भाई. ओ
आलू भाई
आ,
का है, ओजी बाबर आजम फैन, सॉरी
नहीं नहीं,
आजम
आलू
खान फैन.
आलू भाई इज अ नेपोली फैन नाउ. अरे आरआईपी. या बट आई थिंक
हफीज.
या आई थिंक ओवरऑल rival fans are pretty disappointed that Ten Hag is not there anymore. Okay, but I think new manager may, I think there is new optimism at least. At the very least, कि yeah, things would be better. You don't know it if it will be, but at least optimism तो है. The optimism retention stream, yeah, very soon, very soon. Um, but
हम डिस्कस
I
ही कर रहे थे
think
प्रथमेश बिफोर वी वेंट, लाइक कि रिटेंशन का पार्ट डिस्कस करना है हमें.
um, so coming to I think the United Chelsea game. I think you've spoken quite a bit. Yeah, United away has been a very difficult fixture for Chelsea for a very large number of years. Even when Chelsea haven't been the best, United haven't been the best. Like, and some of the matches recently have been really poor, except for the match last year, which was like crazy, the 4-3 match.
बट वो तो
Uh,
स्टैमफोर्ड में था ना.
हाँ, Stamford में था last match. So
लास्ट
I think that
चेल्सी कब
is
जीती थी ओल्ड ट्रैफर्ड पे, वैसे याद है क्या?
बहुत साल हो गए. I think 6-7 साल में तो नहीं जीती है. I
मुझे
mean,
तो
I'd be
याद ही नहीं आ रहा
surprised
कब
if
लास्ट जीती. हु वाज द गोल स्कोरर, हु वाज द विन, मतलब हु व्हाट वाज द रिजल्ट, मुझे याद ही नहीं आ रहा. बट ठीक है,
लास्ट
एनीवेज.
एफए कप में जीती थी वो इज व्हाट आई रेड, व्हिच वाज आई थिंक 2020. एंड उससे अलावा तो देयर हैव बीन a lot of draws also between Chelsea and United over the last few years. 1-1 होता था for the longest time. But I think Chelsea have, like United, over the years, United have had the edge. Like even going back पहले, I think United have had the edge over the years. Yeah, Saf was manager in Chelsea. And
Oh, that
so
is a
I
very
think
long.
that's, and I think this is I mean, personally, I've seen a lot of people say it's the best time to play United. But personally, I think it's the worst time to play United. Because if Ten Hag was there, I would still be very bullish. But new manager here, players are trying to impress because they know new manager is coming in, so they are likely to perform much better than they otherwise were. But Chelsea have also been pretty good this season. So I mean, all is not lost. But I think it'd be a good match. Chelsea United always is a big fixture. Even though Chelsea and United have kind of traded being the banter clubs for the past what 6, 7 years, but I think it's always a tough fixture. It's a big game, and I hope matlab, we win obviously. And I think um, Maresca has been asked of like in the big games. He's been found wanting in terms of a bit, obviously, because Chelsea ke only two losses in the Premier League have been to like City and Liverpool, and so this is the next big game after that. Arsenal to play just after this. So I think yeah, two games are very very important for Maresca. I think, especially if Chelsea wants to be in the top four.
But the performances have been decent, I think, under Maresca, right? The Liverpool game, I would say, matlab, Chelsea did well enough to maybe secure a point at least. Matlab, so I think matlab, that was under Poch. I think that was one problem. I think in the big, not just the big games, but Chelsea wasn't putting up a fight in a lot of the so-called big six games or oppositions. And maybe the United games was an exception. So yeah, I think that part at least Maresca started off well. I know matlab, the result didn't go your way, but I think the Liverpool performance was
Yeah.
promising. I would say, matlab.
The performance was great, but I still found the team to be lacking a bit. Like last season, like Chelsea, even though weren't their best, finished sixth. But like in the big game, you saw Chelsea really going for it. Like even in the last minute, like even the United match was lost at 3-2. But in the last minute, Madueke wins the penalty. Palmer scores in the 99th minute, yeah, 100th minute play, and Chelsea wins that. So you saw them going at it till the end. That's something that I haven't seen in the match against City or against Liverpool. And even in some of the other games, like Chelsea have kind of not been at it till the end. And you can't do that in the big games because margins इतने thin होते हैं. But yeah, I think so. Maresca, I think he would have this in the mind. And defensively, Chelsea haven't been very good. But I think that's favorable because United haven't been the best attacking wise, right? So I mean, kind of helps them a bit. But this United team is just, and it's also a free hit for United, right? Like nothing to lose. If they lose, Van Nistelrooy is not going to be asked too many questions, and you can always say you're waiting for Almiron. And if you win, it's like great, right? Like you've won it, and so it's kind of like a free pass for United. So I think the pressure is a lot more on Chelsea and on Maresca because you're already fifth. You're wanting to win the top four. So I think pressure is a bit on Maresca in this match. You're kind of being dubbed as the favorites, and mujhe I've never liked that, especially in like big matches. Anything can happen.
Mm-hmm. Right, right, true.
तो मतलब what I think एक छोटा पॉइंट मतलब हमारी लास्ट टीम में we had a bit of a heated debate on the Ugarte point. And मतलब we're seeing that he's going to be like the big winner under Almiron, right? And I think that is one of the things that I found wrong with Ten Hag, which I wasn't able to shape up in the question. But Ten Hag visibly said that Ugarte needs more time. And he's been playing well ever since the Tottenham game, right? But Ten Hag was very reluctant to give him that game time. So how is a player going to get better into the team? So I think you also mentioned that, and I think that kind of adds up also. Ten Hag was trying to save his job, so he was playing only the players that he thought will get him the result rather than what's best for Manchester United Football Club. So I think that is also one of the things that I think led the club to evaluate that it's not the direction that they want the club to go in. Right. So I think yeah, that was one follow point I want to make. Baki, what do you think is going to be um, a thing that you are looking out for in this match? I mean, obviously big game, but what are things that you want to see in this match from a United perspective?
I think good thing for Root and as well as United in general is that it's at Old Trafford. Obviously, you wouldn't have followed the Leicester game in the cup, but I think
Hmm.
matlab, I'm not sure if fans were relieved or maybe it is that new manager bounce as we said it. And Root was anyways like a cult favorite for United fans. Had like a world class record when he was a striker
Yeah.
for United. I think that part just was a lot of was matlab, brought a lot of excitement to the United fans. So I think that's something I'm looking forward to seeing again. I think fans can prove to be the twelfth player, especially when you're playing at home. So maybe that adds up, and I think it's high time players kind of. When you have seen a manager go, I think for fans and for us, it's still easy talking about what is right, what is wrong for from a manager's point of view. But I think players who play under manager, they all know that a manager has certain attributes and skill set. And let's all agree that I think Ten Hag was. I think tactical knowledge of football and tactical know-how was was definitely not the problem with Ten Hag. I think if anything, it would have been the way he was not able to communicate it across to the players. So I think that is one more reason कि players play well out of guilt maybe कि हाँ यार एक पिछले manager को kind of sack करवा दिया. Because
Yeah.
if anything, the players are equally to blame, right, for a manager sacking, if not the manager himself. So I think that's what
Yeah.
the new manager bounce is what I'm looking forward to if I had to put it very simply. Maybe Root can. So the United did pretty well in the midweek game against Leicester.
Yeah.
Although the Leicester team was not the strongest, but yeah, matlab, I think.
Um, yeah, and also midweek Chelsea didn't have the best result. So I mean, kya, like so what Chelsea have been doing right now is having this A team B team kind of concept and
Mhm.
like 11 changes every midweek match. And it was going pretty well. Like Conference League, mein, I think things have been really well. But I think it showed the gulf in the quality between the B team and the A team. And like you can't just kind of win against a Premier League team, kuch bhi khila ke. I think that was, I think, a big wake up call to Maresca also. Ki you need to show respect to your opponent. But I think he was also trying to make a point that his priorities are more in the league and like
But
Palmer, even though he was on the bench, didn't bring him on. And Jabki like it was crying out for like Palmer to play part of it.
but
So
I had like one question for you, and I know it's like kind of against the agenda of the pod. So like, matlab, Chelsea is a club who's been kind of notoriously matlab, famous for letting go their managers, even though if they've had like decent seasons. Probably, I think Frank Lampard was the last exception of a manager who didn't win a trophy and still managed to continue the next season. With yesterday's defeat, that is one trophy out. And matlab, I know Conference League Chelsea are the favorites, and probably they will win it as well. But do you think matlab, Chelsea are going to walk the same rope with Maresca as well? So they're definitely not winning the league, right? Obviously, that leaves them with just the FA Cup and the Conference League now. Do you think Chelsea will walk the same rope with Maresca if he doesn't win anything, or do you think his league performances would be good enough? Matlab,
I
obviously,
think
subjective to where he finishes in the league.
I think like this new ownership has been very, what do you say, vocal behind the scenes that they want to evaluate their managers based on their league form more than the trophy cup. Last season, Chelsea lost in the finals or semi-final in FA Cup and final in Carabao Cup, and came very close to winning the trophy to Poch. But like league form wasn't the best, and honestly, last ke few matches is when Chelsea really picked up. But I thought it was. I also personally felt it was slightly late. Because when you look at the season overall, like 80% of it wasn't the best in the league. And end May, other teams started dropping off. United most visibly, Tottenham most visibly, and you were able to capitalize on that and went on a good winning run. So I think Maresca is, I think, going to be judged on very much the league form, and also like his appointment also kind of signals that manage board kind of wants to give a longer run, even though they have in the past not given it. But just the appointment of him, who has 1 year of experience at Leicester and hasn't won anything, so it shows they're willing to give it more time. And they also wanted a manager who's more of a coach, and Maresca fits that bill. So he's happy to like be compatible with all of their other decision making. So I think that was a big factor for them. And if that is what Maresca is doing well, I think उसके points भी उसे मिलेंगे apart from the results in the footballing side of it. And I think league is a better testament for them also. I mean honestly, Carabao Cup always a good वो Conference League तो I mean the teams that are there. मतलब अगर चेल्सी नहीं जीतेगी, I see it in the chat also कि like Chelsea finish fifth and don't win the conference. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really, I would say, bad look for Maresca. Like Chelsea की team जो है and the other team, I mean the gulf in quality is just too much. If they don't win it, it's going to be very, very shocking. So, but I still think the league is going to be a better metric, and Chelsea have started well. It's a matter of continuing this for the season, being consistent for the other 29 games. And if Chelsea finish fourth, I think Maresca. But I think next year there will be more expectations on like winning a trophy. This year, Conference League in Chelsea, पता नहीं Club World Cup में भी है मतलब so you never know if things work out there. But I think league is very much the priority, and I think Maresca has been told that in like no uncertain terms.
Yeah, yeah. Good to see kind of change in ideology there. I think मतलब a yo-yo of managers is never kind of nice to see as maybe
Yeah,
a fan
but
of your club itself.
yeah,
मतलब.
yeah, obviously, yeah, it changes so much, and it's just like, and I think this board really wanted to give their managers more time, but just when results really start going against you, and then you have to like doubt yourself, doubt the manager. I mean, that's why they fired Tuchel, got in Potter, who was like this process coach building this project, but they didn't weren't able to see through that. Same with Pochettino, they wanted to build this project, but things didn't go. I mean, in their hiring, they want to kind of have this big project, etc. But जब results start not going your way, then it is going to be the real question when you ask yourself कि भाई क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. So
I think they're just two sides to the coin. मतलब ऐसे मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि on one side it is wrong, but on the other side मतलब it is also right. मतलब ऐसा भी नहीं है कि Chelsea has just won like other trophies. मतलब in the last 10 years Chelsea has more Premier Leagues than Liverpool, United, Arsenal combined. तो मतलब I think मतलब ऐसा it sounds wrong कि why are you sacking so many managers, but कैसा होता है ना मतलब under the Abramovich era it was a strategy which always worked. मतलब as a rival fan, I could never fathom how firing managers continuously is more stable for the team or maybe is better output wise for a team rather than sticking with one manager.
yeah,
But हाँ मतलब I
and
think
also I think maybe I think people get too attached to the manager sometimes. I mean, unpopular opinion, but I think the club is a very big, I would say, organism, right? So a manager changing is not the end of the world. He's a critical part of the plan. But there are a lot of things that go around in building a successful club. And that is the model that every club is now kind of moving into. Like everyone wants this head coach where people like Arteta, Slot, Maresca kind of fit in, where they don't, and you're moving away from the Mourinho's and the Peps and the Klopps to this head coach kind of a material where you have this director of football, whatever. And that's where I think Almorim as a signing of a manager kind of also fits in, right? Someone who's not focused only on the coaching of the football. So, and I think, but I think I mean, it's not still not the most successful. It has its own risk. But I think Chelsea, for all of its flaws, at least is decisive. Like when they feel like it, they kind of just opt for the change without knowing if it's going to work or not. And in hindsight, though, her decision ko you can evaluate better and for worse. But it's just about a matter of being slightly more decisive.
Yeah,
So
right,
I
right.
think on the match itself, so I think Palmer didn't start, like entire first 11 didn't start. So I expect all of them to be fresh, and especially because United played all of their main players in midweek. I think that is one thing that I'm looking at. In the past few matches that Chelsea have played again, Chelsea has been really found lacking in terms of the intensity, and that is where Chelsea have lost out on the matches, especially at Old Trafford over the years, where we've not been able to match for intensity. I remember Chicha scoring so many goals, and in the last 2 years, McTominay has scored. Garnacho was very good in the match in Stamford Bridge. So those are an excuse that I don't think Chelsea can have. Like not being up for it this match. It's a great opportunity to win at Old Trafford after like so many years. So I expect Palmer to do well. I think like the team really like relies on him. Yeah, last week उसका जो pass था for Neto, I mean, it was amazing. मतलब I remember seeing it and I was like, भाई क्या चल रहा है ये? And then he also ended up scoring. So I think that is Palmer is very much on current form. I think one of the best players in the league. You could argue he's the best in the league right now, but I think
He scored a
वो
hat
वाले
trick last
discussions
year,
पे
no? Stamford Bridge पे.
yeah, two penalties and like last minute winner. So Palmer has been really really good. His output is amazing and like जो pre-assist था like he does things like that. He had a goal ruled out also in the first 5 minutes or something. So मतलब just so much revolves around him. Enzo, Enzo is like now the player that divides an entire Chelsea fan base कि भाई क्या करना है Enzo का. I've been
उसकी
hearing
लाइकर
rumors
भी है.
that Ria यार लोगों को लगता है कि he is a good player. Just उसको टाइम नहीं मिल रहा पता नहीं क्या चाहिए like it's been more than almost 2 years since he's been at the club. पता नहीं उसको और कितना टाइम चाहिए. And I think personally
मैं
I
तो have
feel
not seen him
that
put in one good Chelsea performance. मतलब 2 साल में. I am not for obviously
yeah
Chelsea closely, but
or
I can count on
me
my fingers
personally
his good performances for the club, I would say.
me personally I'm just very neutral about Enzo. Like I'm not in love with him as a player. I don't hate him as a player. I just think the league is too fast for him. Like I think Enzo uh
I think he's
the
just
league
another player who rode off that World Cup or
yeah.
international tournament wave, and he just got a
And
big deal.
I think I think he's going to be an I've seen rumors that Real are a bit interested in him, Enzo के लिए. And I think he's a player that he'll thrive in La Liga where the pace is slower and you get time on the ball, etc. So so maybe the Premier League is not for him. And ऐसे बहुत players होते हैं जिनके लिए like Premier League is just not cut out for. So
True.
I just wish him the best.
But you're
And
not
I
world
think
class if
Lavia
you
has been
but you're not world class if you say things like you're not made for the Premier League, right? मतलब you're just
yeah,
another
for
good
sure, for
player.
sure. And again, he's like also pretty young. Yeah. हाँ मतलब उस
I
टाइम पे
think
आई
this is
थिंक
a deal
चेल्सी
any club would take. मतलब
भाई सच में एनजो चुआमेनी लाइक मतलब आई थिंक no brainer यार आई थिंक and Chouameni offered so much to the team I think and if Real ends up doing this मतलब Real बेवकूफ है मतलब and but I think
I think
Enzo
Real is
might work
generally
out
on the
for him
other side of such deals, not the
yeah.
worst side. So Real if
नहीं,
only would be on the
but I think Real are now struggling with their Galactico signings मतलब like you saw in the El Clasico right I mean slightly digressing but Barca looked so much better than Real. And this is despite Real having this amazing world class team. Uh, and they've been struggling a bit in the Champions League as well. But I think they're just having these too many superstars. The problem that PSG have had for so many years just doesn't work out. Like destabilize the entire team. Jude Bellingham is not even the player that he was last year. He was being touted for the Ballon d'Or. इस साल तो he's barely able to play half decent. मतलब Mbappe is lost. मतलब I think Real have gone on
आई
a
थिंक
different route. I
एंचेलोटी ने
think
भी
they
अब लाइट ले लिया है, उसको लग रहा है कि अब बस जाना ही है अगले
Hmm.
सीजन. ही इज जस्ट एवरीवन इज वेटिंग फॉर अलोंसो टू कम
Yeah,
इन एंड लाइक रीबिल्ड काइंड ऑफ रियल. मतलब रीबिल्ड एज इन नॉट रीबिल्ड बट मतलब just put Real again back on that new kind of footballing wo. So maybe that is another reason. And yeah, Flick has probably been like the manager of the season till now. So
yeah. But so yeah, Embo Embo तो has been crazy यार मतलब भाई Mbombo looks
but it
older
could very
than
well be true. Amorim is just 39, I think so.
Mbombo is the Rashid Khan of the Premier League. Yeah.
Mbuemo is
But
40 years old.
what are your predictions for the game, Parth?
Yeah, in terms of score line, though, I think I can see another draw coming, maybe a 1-1. I think Chelsea matlab, are in a good run of form. Palmer is just a player who kind of is able to do something from nothing in a sense. So I think he's that Hazard. He's a lot like Hazard in that sense. So whenever Hazard used to play at United, matlab, I remember Mourinho used to like deploy a player just for Hazard, be
Yeah,
it Herrera
yeah.
in all those years. So
Usually and under Herrera होता था वो player who would like man mark
हाँ
Hazard.
तो
And I think same for this match. I think like if you man mark Palmer, like it increases your chances of kind of getting a result. If
I
Palmer
think I'm
has
not sure
time and
how
space, and I think
tactically astute Rude is, but if he maybe uses a similar strategy, United, it might sit well for United. I still can see
but
matlab,
that
Chelsea scoring. Huh.
but that player is likely to only be Ugarte. I think like Casemiro isn't like quick enough to kind of keep up with Palmer. I think Ugarte is probably the only viable choice. But I think Ugarte plays on the other side of it. So I don't know how it's
Hmm.
going to work because very easily Palmer could be on the right side when Ugarte is
I
on
think
the
Ugarte
other side.
definitely
So
starts because Ugarte started midweek as well, and Casemiro I think starts because he's on a goal scoring
two
run. I would
goals,
say.
three goals in two
Three
matches,
goals in
right?
last two
Oh,
games. So, and he scored a worldie also in midweek. So, matlab, not for the fact that he's scoring goals, but yeah, matlab, I think matlab, when a new manager comes in, he just sticks to players who kind of work.
yeah.
And I think अब कैसेमीरो को भी थोड़ी शर्म आ गई होगी. I think his performances were a lot behind kind of Ten Hag kind of losing his job. So I think yeah, maybe United
But
strings up a good performance, maybe a win also. But yeah,
Alu bhai, this time.
this,
Yeah, I think Chelsea wins this. I think it'll be close 3-1 because I don't see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet. And I think a big thing for Chelsea has been like Reece James has been back. And like I think that's been a big boost for the team because recently there were talks by Maresca himself that their leaders lacking in the Chelsea dressing room. And he kind of like challenged Reece James ki bhai, like I expect more from you as captain. And I think he was really good in the Newcastle match last week. And मतलब, crazy stat, Reece James played the full 90 minutes after 560 days. So, I mean, like him playing 90 minutes is like personally, I think it's a big boost for the team. And
is he going to beat Luke
again,
Shaw now finally?
पता नहीं यार लूक शॉ कहाँ है भाई अबे वो छोड़ लूक शॉ मेसन माउंट आर दे एवर गोइंग टू प्ले इन द प्रीमियर लीग दिस ईयर इट्स जस्ट सो सैड यार मतलब both of them are like such nice people and like I think Mount का like United move has just not worked out it's just like been really sad to see
Yeah, I think another one of the reasons is kind of Mount was like one of those rare United players who Ten Hag didn't get from his ex Ajax team, and he had a lot of faith in Mount. I think if he went against his philosophy, I think Mount was a player he really banked upon. Didn't work out for him in the first year.
and also like
This year as well.
with Amorim like I don't see how Mount again fits into that system of three at the back. I mean, he did play that
But
under Tuchel, but
I was going to say the same. He was pretty good against Tuchel in the back three, right? Matlab, why do you say he's not going to fit in? Matlab, or I
नहीं,
thought
मतलब
he would
I
be
don't
one who
because
he can play one of the
he's
wings,
going
right?
to not, but he's not going to play over Bruno, right? Like I've seen that Amorim wants his wingers to be more narrower. So probably Rashford ke upar he plays. Maybe that's the situation where you have like a front three of Fernandes, Mount, and Hoyland. But I honestly then don't see where the goals really come from. Like so, you would need someone like a Rashford or a Garnacho to kind of bring that different threat. Otherwise, like again, I think a problem for the future. But पहले Mount fit तो हो मतलब तब तो ये problem actually आएगी. So, but yeah, I wish he gets like fitter and then plays some games because it's just not working out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe do you want to briefly touch upon the other games? Maybe like 5 minutes each.
Let's do that. Yeah. So
Right?
Liverpool is the first. Newcastle is playing Arsenal in the early kickoff.
Yeah, Newcastle plays Arsenal, and I think Arsenal ka last match. Like, do you want to quickly cover that? Like that match against Liverpool,
Preston.
2-2.
That's Arsenal against Liverpool. Okay, I was thinking midweek. Arsenal. So funnily, both Timber and Saka started, and no one's going to trust Arteta with his kind of. I think it was written in stone. Arteta is just being very notorious in his kind of ways about. He is just
Yeah,
Mourinho. He's just Mourinho reincarnated. Matlab.
just wanna be. He's just भाई अनिरुद्ध भाई नहीं नहीं भाई ये रोको. But I think मतलब that is what I think Arteta is kind of पता नहीं learning या whatever. He he
ये
मतलब वो
ये
ये
दिवाली मना
I
रहे हैं
don't know how
लोग
to
यहाँ
put
पे.
I I don't know how to put it, but अटेटा को लगता है ये सब सस्ती चीजें करके ना मैचेस जीत जाते हैं. मतलब कि अरे मैं बोलूंगा साका नहीं खेलेगा और साका खेलेगा और लिवरपूल की एकदम फट लेगी. मतलब यार आई मीन ऑब्वियसली दे नो कि दे प्रिपेयर फॉर साका प्लेइंग इफ ही डजंट प्ले लाइक गुड
Yeah,
फॉर देम. बट मतलब
yeah,
यार ऐसे कोई सरप्राइज एलिमेंट्स नहीं है इस चीज में कि अरे मैंने तो बोला और ट्रेनिंग में नहीं है और मतलब एंड लाइक साका प्लेड
yeah.
एंड साका इज द बेस्ट प्लेयर ही स्कोर्ड. मतलब अच्छी बात है मतलब बट ये सब करके आई जस्ट थिंक इट्स I don't know, मतलब he's doing himself, he's trying to be Mourinho, whatever, but पता नहीं मुझे ये सब समझ नहीं आता कि मतलब what is the benefit of this for the team मतलब or for the club
True,
मतलब.
true. True. I think he's just taking the attention away from Arsenal Football Club. He's I think a lot of players he just wants people to talk about him more than his players. Good in a way, I would say, but matlab, doesn't make a lot of sense as outsiders.
but
But I just
but I
want to
think
quickly
tough
touch
game for
upon
yeah
the fact that Arsenal has blown up again a 2-1 lead against their title rivals. So that could have been 6 points instead of two. So
yeah
matlab, all
and
in
I
all,
think
you can say whatever that no Odegaard, no Calafiori, whatever, no matlab, a few big players missing, but still, if you blow up a 2-1 lead at the dying stages, matlab, it's not going to sit well with your title ambitions. So not
yeah, and I
not
think like over the course of the game I think it was a very like fair result. I think 2-2 was I think based on the balance of yeah very much main characters. हाँ and मतलब नहीं और ये
Pe-
तो मैं आयुष है नहीं बट आई वाज वेरी वोकल अबाउट दिस अ फ्यू वीक्स अगो कि मतलब दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई अटेटा डजंट गो फॉर प्रूवन साइनिंग्स क्योंकि and that is why he had conflicts with Aubameyang and Ozil because he doesn't fit well with his persona. He likes players like Saka etc. कि उनको कुछ भी बोल दिया धक्का वक्का दे दिया ठीक है और मतलब but I think Liverpool were pretty much the happier team. I think like draw isn't the worst result for Liverpool. But I think it's the worst result for Arsenal. Like again, Arsenal had the opportunity to lay the marker. Like they would have been, I think the same point as Liverpool. I think if I'm not wrong. But it's just मतलब पता नहीं है. Like they just end up in these situations where they have an opportunity to win it. They could have won it also. But I think credit to Liverpool and obviously Salah scoring that goal in the 85th minute. But it's just पता नहीं I Arteta हाँ मतलब
नहीं
it
यार
isn't
अभी
a worst result but given
आई
their
थिंक मैं थोड़ा
absentees क्या मतलब ओडेगार्ड
आई
ही
थिंक
तो
मैं थोड़ा
absent
भी
है ऐसे मतलब
थोड़ा weekend टायर्ड हूँ ये एब्सेंटीज वाले पॉइंट से अब मेरे को थोड़ा इरिटेट होता है आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टच अपॉन इट नाउ द फैक्ट कि आर्सेनल एब्सेंटीज है तो है यार या तो तुम खुद को टाइटल लिस्ट से बाहर गिन लो एंड यू विनिंग इट इज लाइक अ मिरेकल हाँ जीत गए किसी तरह यू मतलब एक टाइटल विनिंग टीम कांट क्या कौन से ओडेगार्ड एंड कैलाफियोरी वाज साइंड दिस सीजन एंड ही इज बिकम लाइक अ
सलीबा भी नहीं था ना
एब्सेंटी
सलीबा भी नहीं
सलीबा ठीक है चलो सलीबा एंड ओडेगार्ड आई मीन टू से बट ठीक है यार मतलब अब क्या बोलूं मतलब वैसे हर बार एब्सेंटीज इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी अ रीजन मतलब
नहीं है मतलब आई और ये तो आप ही का वो है ना मतलब आई मीन एंड they had like a pretty decent bench. I mean, I wouldn't say they had like a really bad bench also. But I think I get what Ishan is trying to say that Liverpool should have probably won it, and they probably did have the chances to win it as well. But I think two all, I think is a fair result. But I think just the draws don't help either team. But I think it helps Liverpool at current place
I was
that
just
they are
thinking
in, where
the
they are
third
trying
game
to
of
build their
this kind of if the third game which is going to be Liverpool Liverpool City haven't played right this season.
yeah, Liverpool City bacha, I think like
हाँ तो if
it's in a few
Liverpool City
weeks.
also draw then it kind of squares out. So I think a draw in that game would be best for Arsenal, and in that only in that case Arsenal would be kind of good off. Otherwise, I think
यार और
one team would
मतलब
have taken more
I
points.
just and I'll just go back to like last season. Like why do City always win the Premier League? Is because they win the matches that they're expected to win. It's not these matches. They didn't beat Liverpool in both matches last season. They didn't beat Arsenal both matches last season. So it isn't that you have to win these matches. Like it is a great advantage, but City invariably wins the other matches, the Fulhams, the Bournemouths. But that is where Arsenal have been struggling. They've already drawn to Aston Villa. Sorry, they won against Aston Villa. They've already drawn to Brighton. They already drew. किससे हारे थे वो अभी
Lost
latest?
lost to Bournemouth.
Lost to Bournemouth, right? And Liverpool have lost to Nottingham. But like City have won all of those matches. A few draws here and there. But I think it's the other matches that you and वहाँ पे Liverpool have kind of been pretty good. Arsenal haven't been at their best, and that's why they're 5 points behind in the title race. And yeah, 5 points काफी होते हैं. And I think absentees वाला point, I think yeah, one of those absentees is because of the red card that you took in the last match. So how can you cry about it in the very next game? कि अरे सलीबा नहीं है, ओडेगार्ड नहीं है, and वो भी नहीं है, मतलब कैलिफ्यूरी आई मीन यू राइट अभी तो आया उसको पहले टीम में स्टार्टिंग प्लेयर तो बनने दो देन उसके बारे में बोलना बट
Hamla, I'm not
यार
going to
और मतलब
discuss at all about this point in future. When even if Ayush brings it up, ki we have a lot of absentees, I'm not going to touch upon it. I'm not going to entertain that discussion also. I think it's high time, मतलब
भाई
Arsenal
और
starts owning up for their role.
भाई और सिटी की हालत देखो यार मतलब उनकी टीम देखी जो मिडवीक खेली मतलब दे लिटरली हैव नो प्लेयर्स मतलब आ गया ये रुपेश का पॉइंट मतलब
Hmm.
अरे मतलब
हाँ यार
जेन्युइनली यार
मतलब
ये एक्चुअली
I think City's point about KDB and Rodri, they're two best players, hands down. I've been missing, and I think they're going to be missing for a while. So मतलब वो तो मेरे को कभी पॉइंट नहीं आता सिटी जस्ट business as usual for them every game तो I think even Akanji is a very big player for them Walker Guardiol I'm not sure Guardiol कितना injured है but so मेरे को वही समझ नहीं आता मतलब love you Parth about what Ishan Rana come on the stream please वरना we'll officially have the first stream where you have not
अरे
been a part of
अरे ईशान थॉट्स ऑन टेन हैग सैकिंग यार वी टुक दैट अप मतलब जल्दी ये डाल दे फटफट but I think just covered the Newcastle Arsenal match. I think it's going to be a tough match. I think Newcastle have been on like an upward trajectory of sorts. I mean, they
hmm.
haven't been at their usual best, but Newcastle are currently very much mid-table. Haven't won in their last 5 matches in the Premier League. But I think the midweek match against Chelsea might just be a catalyst for them. And also Newcastle at home is just a tricky fixture. And like they have Isaac back, and he's kind of been their main guy for the last year or so. So I expect them to kind of put in a good fight. And Arsenal, with their absentees, I don't know if they'll be able to compete. I expect a draw. मतलब,
Oh, okay. Uh, I think Arsenal wins it with Saliba coming back. I think they'll have that one goal in them, probably through Gabriel or whoever. I'm not sure. Maybe one of the corners. They win it 1-0, something like that. I think.
Yeah.
यार
Yeah.
चलो भाई यार मैं
भाई
बहुत ज्यादा थका
बस
हुआ हूँ
ईशान को 2 बार बोलना था क्या? फोन से
भाई
आ रहा है क्या भाई?
ईशान
मैं-
ईशान
हाँ
ऑफिशियली हर स्ट्रीम पे आ चुका है अब.
आई डोंट मिस इट
वो
बॉयज
वो वो
यार मैं पास में एक्चुअली उस पॉइंट पे बोल रहा था you're absolutely right यार मतलब nobody मतलब I keep hearing it every time Arsenal loses points it's somebody else's fault it's the referee's fault it's कि कोई player available नहीं है it's मैं भी थक चुका हूँ इस discourse से मतलब उस बात के लिए लव यू बात बोला था because this is you the only thing that you can do as a rival fan is just like not discuss it and not entertain that fucking argument
नहीं
because
मतलब
बहुत
आई थिंक
tiring हो गया मतलब given देख मैं the point that I was making is कि Saliba and Odegaard not being there is regardless an advantage to Liverpool. तो मैं उस perspective से बोल रहा हूँ कि we should have
हाँ नहीं
gone
नहीं
for three
लिवरपूल
points.
maybe won the game, yeah, go on for 3 points, but I think Sal's point is correct, right? You have an absentee because you took a red card, and that
हाँ
red
भाई
card would have
मतलब मैं वही तो
spoiled
कह
you.
रहा हूँ कि आर्सेनल की तो गलती ही है ना मतलब एंड मतलब नॉट लोडिंग अप ऑन प्लेयर्स और नॉट हैविंग अ स्क्वाड दैट कैन विन द लीग आप सिर्फ एक फर्स्ट 11 पे बेस नहीं कर सकते यार अपना टाइटल टास्क मतलब टाइम एंड अगेन क्योंकि
सॉरी
एक दो
अगर
इंजरीज एंड देन यू आर ऑफ 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 बैलेंस आप कह रहे हो कि आपको एक ही 11 चाहिए जिस जो आपको 3 पॉइंट दिला सकती है दैट नेवर नेवर टर्न अराउंड
I have to drop off, but sorry for that. Uh, but see you guys very soon in the review. Baki, Ishan, need your thoughts on the Ten Hag sacking. Chalo, bye bye.
Bye.
Chalo, sorry.
बाय बाय भाई क्या क्या बातें होगी 1.5 घंटे में
Yeah, we mostly touched upon the Ten Hag hacking and then what Amorim might bring to United. Then we
What?
slightly touched upon the Chelsea United game, and अभी फिर बाकी games kind of briefly touch upon कर रहे थे before we slightly digressed into the review of last week. So
यार मैं तो
your point, your
मतलब मैं आई लव टू नो व्हाट योर थॉट्स आर अबाउट एमरिम क्योंकि मेरी साथ से तो बात हुई थी बट व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स मतलब व्हाट्स द जनरल फीलिंग लाइक अबाउट एमरिम कमिंग इन
I think feeling about any new manager is always hope, one of hope, and rather than मतलब अभी Southgate होता तो maybe would have been one of
भाई
dismay or maybe frustration.
मतलब चाहे साउथगेट ने कितना हराम बॉल खेला हो कितना अंडर यूटिलाइज किया हो इंग्लैंड इंग्लिश प्लेयर्स को बट फाइनल्स तक तो ले ही जाता था फाइनल्स से क्या फिर डीप इन द कंपटीशन सो यू कांट टेक दैट अवे
I
फ्रॉम
think finals में तो Ten Hag भी लेके गया. In fact, he has won finals as well. तो but
या
still
दैट इज ट्रू
he got the sack, right. So I think one thing about Amorim is matlab, I hope at least, so all these things are maybe based on rather hope rather than me being definitely sure of it's going to happen. I think he has to bring his points across. I think what turned out at the end was, and I think a lot of you touched upon it in the podcast as well, यूनाइटेड की फिलॉसफी है क्या, मतलब टेन हैग की फिलॉसफी है क्या, व्हाट डज ही वांट टू डू विद द प्लेयर्स. आई थिंक Amorim, if anything, Amorim has to learn from what Ten Hag made mistakes. I think मतलब me and Sahil were talking about Amorim signing just looks like Ten Hag signing 3 years back. The next big thing in football. Maybe obviously Ten Hag came with more experience. He had a Champions League semi-final and a really exciting Ajax team behind him. I think Amorim maybe not so much. He's very recent. He won Sporting the league last year after maybe 15-20 years, and this year has been flawless. As if that
flawless
is
yeah
that is the word. 9 games, 27 points is flawless, right? And if you see Gyökeres, is like he's like the hottest property in football in terms of the striker position. So I think he has to put his point across. He's also tactically pretty astute. He's kind of he has that three at the back thing which has worked for him for the past
Hmm.
whatever years he's been in management. So I'm going to assume he's going to stick with it at United. So he needs three proper center backs.
Correct,
Maybe he has
correct.
to maybe he has to bring back Maguire from like the doldrums, and Maguire is was mostly done under Ten Hag, so maybe he has to, and till Euro comes back he has to kind of trust Maguire, right? So that
True.
is one thing, couple of things he has to kind of
Correct.
be
But yeah,
strong
मतलब
about.
मुझे लगता है कि with Amorim's back three, now there's a lot of pace that they have in those back three. With Inacio, with that other guy, जिसका मैं नाम भूल रहा हूँ. But with like your starting center backs and Delete, Martinez, maybe Evans or Maguire start right. I don't see a lot of like recovery pace. So I think that is an issue. And matlab, is he so adamant on his formation कि वो United में भी आके three at the back लाएगा? Happy Diwali, Pepin bhai. Happy Diwali to everybody, guys. Um, yeah, that'll be really intriguing to see.
यार मतलब
Second question that
obviously
I was
मतलब
wondering about Parth is कि मतलब जैसे टेन हैग भी जब आया था ना तो ऐसे बहुत टैक्टिकली एस्टूट था, है ना? मतलब जब भी हम एयाक्स की बात करते थे, टेन हैग की बात करते थे, तो एवरीबॉडी टॉक्ड अबाउट द काइंड ऑफ फुटबॉल दैट ही प्लेड, और वो मतलब इट वाज अ वेरी गुड लुकिंग फुटबॉल, रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड, राइट? तो व्हाट डू यू थिंक really went wrong now that he's gone, now that everything's in the this thing? What do you think that went wrong?
यार multiple things, मतलब मेरे को I always feel kind of कि he was not always the fault. I think the players were also at fault. मतलब players buying into his philosophy slash him not being able to portray or he's not able to convey his philosophy to the players. I think it's a part of both things. I think him not knowing the language, I know it's not that big a thing, but it matters a lot. I think matlab, I think one thing which I saw from Amorim, I was surprised to see. I mean, surprisingly happy to see. I think he's very fluent with English, and I think it's a big thing coming into England. You have to be kind of, you have to know the language. I think Ten Hag, when he came to England, he didn't know English, and that was a huge issue. And I think matlab, I'm not saying that is what's caused his issue, but it is a problem if you're not able to kind of convey your football philosophy to players. And I think that is one reason why fans and maybe even rival fans till the end kept asking, what is Ten Hag really trying to build here? What is his
Hmm.
philosophy? मतलब अगर हमें नहीं दिखी तो प्लेयर्स को दिखी भी हो, बट वो दिखा तो पाए नहीं. एंड मैनेजर अब पेपर पे तो नहीं खिलाएगा, राइट? अपने फुटबॉल ही हैज टू प्ले इट थ्रू द फुटबॉल प्लेयर्स, राइट?
Hmm.
दो ही तरीके हो सकते हैं, या तो फुटबॉल प्लेयर्स वर सो डम दैट दे वर नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड. बट रियली मतलब पता नहीं, ब्रूनो looks like a smart enough player, मतलब has a footballing brain, तो should have a footballing brain good enough to understand
Hmm.
on a good, very good player on the ball. I think Delict was a player who bought into that philosophy at Ajax, so why would he not buy into it at United? So मतलब could be a culmination of things, मतलब जैसे मैंने बोला, मतलब but हाँ definitely यार, मतलब his stats towards the end of his reign were definitely not helping his cause. United was 16th in terms of goals scored in the league. United were
Under 10
13th
हैग?
this season, yeah.
अरे दिस सीजन, अच्छा.
साहिल क्यों कॉल कर रहा है?
ऐड करने को बोल रहा हूँ वापस.
क्या बदमाशियां कर रहे हो यार?
भाई वापस आ गया भाई, रहा नहीं गया. यार मैं बस बात से वही पूछ रहा था कि मतलब जब बिकॉज एमरेम ऑल्सो, मतलब जब टेन हैग आया था तो वो भी सिमिलर प्रोफाइल का ही था इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि एक्साइटिंग फुटबॉल, डोमेस्टिक लीग जीता था, व्हाटएवर, लाइक इट वाज वेरी एक्साइटिंग. तो मैं बस पार्ट से पूछा था कि व्हाट डज ही थिंक वेंट रॉन्ग विद टेन हैग. And मतलब ठीक है, मतलब I think there's a lot of chatter about, there was a lot of chatter about there not being a backroom structure at United which is now fixed. Owners के को लेके बहुत hate था, तो now there are new owners. तो I'll be really वो the only मतलब I'm not trying to like diss you or like whatever, but I'm just saying कि जैसे Amorim को भी I think Liverpool were interviewing him, they rejected him. West Ham ने भी उसका रिलीज क्लॉज पे नहीं किया था. तो मतलब United going for somebody who other Premier League clubs did not go for, has to be some kind of locha there, is what I'm essentially getting at. मतलब हो
यार
सकता
अब
है कि ना
लोचा है
हो,
नहीं
मतलब हो
पता
सकता है
नहीं, बट
फिलोसफी मैच
मतलब
ना करी हो,
do you really
बट
think sticking with Rude till the end of the season was a solution?
नहीं
Probably
नहीं
no.
नहीं
Do you
बिल्कुल नहीं
think
मैं
appointing Southgate was a solution? Definitely no.
यस यस
नहीं
I would
मतलब
have loved to see Southgate at United, man.
हाँ मतलब fans would have rival fans would have loved to see it, not the United fans. And I think United board knew it. Appointing Southgate would have just मतलब lost it with the new ownership. So I think that's a good step they probably took if firing Ten Hag was not a good one. So yeah, I think Amorim is a good coach. I'm excited to see his football.
And
I
also,
would have definitely not.
and al- and also, like, I think him not joining West Ham and Liverpool were probably other reasons also. Like Liverpool
हाँ मैं वही
saying
कह रहा हूँ. Could
like
be, could be.
slot to be better. West Ham का mid season था. Maybe they were not able to negotiate on the terms. And I think like realistically, like who else was there? मतलब Potter. मतलब I think United. Personally, I think United should have gone for Tuchel. I was surprised they didn't, but I think he went for England. I think that was also questionable for me. मतलब leaving all of that
I think
क्योंकि वो एक
Tuchel
trend भी
was
था.
another case of a very, very strong personality, and may I add egoistic as well at the helm. Maybe I think if that was one negative point of Ten Hag, if I can add, maybe we touched upon it as well, right? Matlab,
Yeah.
you can't have a lot of egoistic, matlab, and some person who's always trying to make his thing work rather than it being a combination of things. And matlab Sir Jim Ratcliffe is not the pushover by any sense. If anything, he has a pretty big ego of himself, though. I think two egoistic people are never going to succeed. That is for sure, though. I
Hmm.
think
यार और मतलब मैं मैं on the Bournemouth वो sorry on the Newcastle Arsenal game मतलब यार title race और ये सब Arsenal like Chelsea is 1 point behind Arsenal with Chelsea United Chelsea to play Arsenal next. So मतलब is मतलब Maresca this nobody's saying Maresca is the next Pep already, right? But मतलब how is this the status of things with Arsenal being like destined for success this year after kind of like being so close? मुझे लग रहा है उनके साथ साइनोसॉइडल कर्व वाला चीज भी हो रहा है लाइक यू हिट योर पीक वो like that is also something that may be a situation rather than just constantly saying ki absenteeism etc. And I read this stat also, right? Like Arsenal have been improving on their points tally for 4 seasons in a row. No club has ever done it 5 seasons in a row. So matlab, that is also a real possibility that you hit your peak and like you might just nosedive a bit, and not like massively, but it's tough to kind of be at that level for 5 years or in our title race terms 3 years. But मतलब मुझे बड़ा वो लगा कि like Chelsea is like 1 point and I think still Chelsea has like miles to go in terms of being able to compete for the title. But Arsenal क्या seriously अभी भी title conversation में है is my question.
यार मेरे लिए तो रहेगी, मतलब उनकी तो क्वालिटी तो है ना स्क्वाड में. मतलब यू कांट डिसरिगार्ड देयर क्वालिटी. यू कांट डिसरिगार्ड व्हाट आर्टेटा हैज डन इन द लास्ट 2 years. माय ओनली कंसर्न अबाउट आर्सेनल इज कि मतलब मेरे को ना दे डोंट इंस्पायर इनफ कॉन्फिडेंस इन मी, बिकॉज यू कांट बी प्लेइंग लिवरपूल एट होम. ठीक है, मतलब इट्स सच अ इम्पोर्टेंट मैच. मतलब तो हम लोग टाइटल कंटेंडर्स है, आपके साथ compete कर रहे हैं. आप सिटी और लिवरपूल के साथ मेजरली compete कर रहे हो टाइटल के लिए. दे स्कोर वन गोल एंड देन दे आर डिफेंडिंग विद 11 people. आई डेंट अंडरस्टैंड दैट. जब वो बॉल के साथ खेल रहे थे दे वर प्लेइंग सो गुड. मतलब जब हम नील नील चल रहा था वो अच्छा खेल रहे थे. उन्होंने एक गोल मारा 30वें मिनट में, उसके बाद उन्होंने डिफेंड करना स्टार्ट कर दिया. फिर से घटिया फुटबॉल. ठीक है, उसके बाद हमने इक्वलाइज किया, फिर से वो अच्छा खेलने लग गए, डोमिनेट करने लग गए. तो जब वेन यू कैन प्ले सच गुड फुटबॉल, वाई वुड यू लाइक नॉट लाइक गो फॉर अ विन. मतलब मेरे को लिवरपूल से भी ये इशू था. मतलब आई जेन्युइनली फेल्ट दैट we did not go for the 3 points hard enough. But why did Arsenal not? उनका तो घर मतलब home पे खेल
यार
रहे हो आप.
but
You know these are
but
like crucial 6 points. It's a six
but I
pointer
think
game.
उसमें like in Arsenal defense, I think Arsenal backed themselves on their defensive side of football, and they do scrape a lot of 1-0s and like by one goal victories. So maybe they backed themselves to kind of win it 2-1. And मतलब हो भी सकता था यार मतलब like if that goal wasn't there, they could have won 2-1 मतलब ऐसा and fine margins in like big games. So I mean ऐसा तो नहीं लगा यार मुझे कि intent नहीं था to kind of see the game through. It's just that from a game management perspective, they just thought like 2-1 को वो better manage कर सकते थे because Liverpool was going to kind of be on the front foot. So I mean, I don't think that is a point that uh, really
यार
has to be
मेरा
against
नहीं
our.
नहीं आई मतलब वो थोड़ा आई थिंक दिस सम मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ ग्रेट टीम्स दे डिफेंड और व्हाटएवर, दे होल्ड देयर लीड्स, दे मैनेज देयर मैचेस, एवरीबॉडी डज दैट. मैं बस ये कह रहा हूँ कि व्हेन यू गॉट द ऑप्शन टू किल द गेम, व्हाई वुड यू नॉट? व्हेन यू गॉट द प्लेयर्स, you've got the quality to go after the other team, beat them. मतलब 1-0 lead was never going to be enough. 2-1 lead was never going to be enough against Liverpool. Everybody knows that. Even Pep knows that, right? मतलब with that City team. कोई भी वर्ल्ड फुटबॉल की कोई भी टीम लिवरपूल खेलेगी, अगर सिर्फ एक एक गोल की लीड है, एवरीबडी विल बी मतलब विल बी श्योर कि अभी गेम नहीं हुआ है खत्म. तो मैं बस ये कह रहा हूँ कि अगर when I see that there is quality and you're still not playing it, I do not understand that. I have no problem with a pragmatic approach in general. ठीक है, मतलब I know defense wins you titles, but not like this. मतलब इस सीजन तो clearly उनका pragmatic approach नहीं चला है.
हाँ यार मतलब एंड आयुष है नहीं तो उसके बिहाफ में बोल देता हूँ सीजन इज लॉन्ग गाइस अभी सिर्फ
हाँ,
9 मैचेस बट
it's
लाइक
too early.
बिफोर
It's too early.
बट यू कांट से दिस लाइक 9 गेम मतलब मोर देन अ क्वार्टर ऑफ द सीजन हैज गॉन ऐसा नहीं है कि हम अभी भी ऐसे 2-3 गेम वीक पे हैं मतलब लाइक देयर हैज बीन अ सिग्निफिकेंट पार्ट ऑफ द सीजन दैट्स ऑलरेडी गॉन लाइक क्रिसमस आने वाला है लाइक नेक्स्ट मंथ सो आई मीन इट्स नॉट टू से कि ऐसे कुछ भी टाइम ही नहीं हुआ है अभी तक but yeah but season is very very young guys.
Plus मतलब to be very honest मतलब I trust, or I really am a big fan of Arsenal's first 11, but I don't think they have the squad to win trophies, man. Like मुझे मुझे ये देख के यही लगा है कि they've been lucky in the last 2 seasons कि कोई major injuries, major absentees नहीं रहे.
Yeah.
But if they're going to play like this, I don't think they have. मतलब क्योंकि Arteta really doesn't show trust in anybody else. He's so sure कि भाई मुझे यही खिलाना है कि उसको genuinely there is no second option, there is no alternative, which is a scary proposition when you're competing for a title in the Premier League, man. और गिवन यार मतलब अभी ये EFL कप में भी हो गया, अगर ये चैंपियंस लीग भी वो कर जाते हैं February तक, you're playing 3 games a week, man. Like Saturday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. कैसे करेगा कोप ये स्क्वाड? मतलब that
नहीं
is
और
the only.
मतलब आर्सेनल को क्या चाहिए होता है मतलब I mean the season before last Saliba went injured and their entire Premier League campaign got derailed right so they rectified it in the summer they signed Timber को sign किया right and defensively I think still Arsenal is a shining shot. Like they had an opportunity to rectify that this season. मतलब अभी they had like two absentees. मतलब they did not have I think जो left back वाला है. They still had Zinchenko who was playing there, right? So ऐसा नहीं है कि they didn't have the players, but ऐसा था कि they had to play party at right back and like you are making it as if कि अरे हमारा तो club एकदम बर्बाद ही हो गया है. Like we have no players to play only with like one absentee, Saliba, who was injured. So you already rectified that with Timber, but Timber is injury prone, so you don't have a player to play on that side, right? But you always had that problem with your other key players. Matlab, you had a problem with Odegaard, so you signed Merino. Merino played decently well in Liverpool, right? So is that so you've technically solved that? Ki Odegaard nahi hai, so you have Merino, like right? That is the logic how you build your squad. And Saka, you signed Sterling, who you were really happy about. You got like a freebie. So, मतलब from a strategy perspective, you had all your bases covered. But अभी जैसे ही वो exactly वो चीजें हुई है which you had prepared for. कि Saka not available, Odegaard not available, and Saliba not available. Your squad is in tatters, matlab, which is exactly what you know you would happen. Matlab, and has happened to you the season before last and somewhat last year. So I agree to your point कि मतलब squad पता नहीं मतलब how is it gonna kind of compete, especially. But I think उसमें ये भी ना Arteta doesn't view any other cup competition seriously, तो मतलब always works well.
भाई इस बार तो शायद पेप ने भी वो ले लिया है, आर्टेटा से सीख लिया है. ही वाज सो हैप्पी टू गेट नॉक्ड आउट ऑफ द ईएफएल कप भाई, मतलब इतना हंस रहा था वो कि भाई
Hmm.
थैंक गॉड. And I think, matlab,
अच्छी
I know like City has a lot of injured players. Guardiola got injured against Spurs, and बाकी उनकी injuries हैं ही. तो I think he'll be very happy. मतलब last week तो बढ़िया गया. Arsenal Liverpool ने draw कर दिया. EFL club से बाहर हो गए, तो they have less fixtures to worry about until January. So I think it's a great, not a great place, but I think they're at an advantage.
But coming to the Liverpool Brighton match, so Ishan, what are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, I think we played fairly well. Kwanzaa is a good topic to talk about. I think he was pretty good last season, and we felt like, like we saved a lot of money by getting somebody from an academy, a defender, because we were one short of a defender. So, but I think he has had a bad start with Slot. क्लॉप ना बहुत ऐसा, मतलब ही वैल्यूड लॉयल्टी टू मच क्या बोलूँगा, ही जस्ट वैल्यूड लॉयल्टी अ लॉट. तो आई डोंट थिंक ही वुड हैव सब्स्टिट्यूटेड क्वांसा इन द फर्स्ट गेम, एंड ही वुड हैव सब्स्टिट्यूटेड क्वांसा इन दिस गेम. बट स्लॉट इज प्रीटी रूटलेस दैट वे, मतलब वो बोलता है अगर तुम गलती, अगर गंदा खेल रहे हो, गलती करी तो बाहर आ जाओ भाई, वी हैव गॉट बेटर प्लेयर्स. तो अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट आई थिंक वी वर प्रीटी सॉलिड. वो लोग भी वीकेंड साइड ही खेल रहे थे, हम लोग भी नए 11 ही खेल रहे थे. तो it'd be pretty interesting to see how we play against Brighton again on the weekend. That would be an exciting match. Uh, I'm I was pretty surprised to see how, like, Brighton plays against under the new manager, जो भी उसका नाम है, जो भी उसका नाम है, खैर. बट वही है, मेरे को नाम नहीं याद उसका, जो भी जर्मन मैनेजर.
Fabian
क्या
Hirschler.
है.
Fabian Hirschler.
हाँ, फैब फैब. तो फैब बढ़िया खेल, मतलब खिलाता है. तो वीकेंड में मजा आएगा, देखते हैं क्या होता है. आई थिंक वैन डाइक और कोनाटे बहुत अंडररेटेड तो नहीं बोलूंगा. आई थिंक देव गॉटन दिस फ्लैट्स दिस सीजन, मगर उनकी कमी खली, मतलब बिग डाउनग्रेड फ्रॉम वैन डाइक कोनाटे टू प्लेइंग गोमेज एंड क्वांसा. तो वो पूरी बैक स्टेबिलिटी थोड़ी हिल जाती है. आई थिंक जो बिट, आई एम सो सॉरी. वो
No,
I
but
think we lost.
like, isn't it weird? Like the number of times that this happens, कि मतलब mid you play the same team on the league and उससे ही आगे पीछे एक मैच में you played the other team in like the cup.
Literally Chelsea
So
and Newcastle.
Chelsea and Newcastle and Brighton and Liverpool, right?
हाँ वही दो
So
games तो
मतलब,
इसी में.
but very I I think it was a good game, but I think Liverpool I think was much better than I think
Let's quickly do a
they had.
prediction round. I think I'm not sure if Ishan is coming back. Maybe we can start off with the United Chelsea game.
Yeah, so you had predicted a draw, so 1-1, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
And I think Chelsea play 3-1, I think. Palmer to score, I think. Palmer has just, मतलब, पता नहीं यार, I think I've run out of superlatives. I think he's just been so good. Uh, Newcastle, Arsenal, I think it's going to be a draw, 1-1. Isaac to score. And दूसरा maybe Saka, I guess.
I think
But,
I was mentioning Arsenal just nicks a 1-0 and then sticks on to that lead maybe. Gabriel header or something like that, yeah. Not seeing the most inspired Arsenal performance away from home, that too at St
and
James's Park, so yeah.
And Liverpool, Brighton. I think Liverpool at home. I think easy win for Liverpool. But I think Brighton have been pretty good. I think they're sixth in the
But
table
Brighton
right
has
now.
just played too much, too a lot of expensive football. I think against the bigger teams, it's just being
Yeah, I think
found
they've been
wanting.
found wanting, and they've just had some like crazy games. I think they score a lot, but they also concede a lot. They're a lot like Chelsea, and that's why I think the Chelsea
The
Brighton
lot
game
like
was
Spurs
crazy.
from last year, I think.
The 4-2 match against Chelsea was just crazy. I think matlab, that was one of the craziest matches I watched in a really long time. But I think if they play the same way against Liverpool, I think Salah is going to have a field day. And I think he's a young manager. He's learning. I don't know if he's learning quickly enough. So, but I still expect Liverpool to win 3-0 or 2-0.
Yeah, I think likewise for me as well. Liverpool wins it 3-0, 4-0, something like that. And Brighton played too expensive, and their manager is not someone who's very. Matlab, he's just riding off that wave, and he's had a very good start to the Premier League for someone that new and that young, though. But still, I think he's going to have his tough days in the Premier League. I think maybe this might be one of them. Yeah.
And matlab, any thoughts on Bournemouth City? I mean, yes, City are still undefeated. I think they've not lost in I think the longest time.
I can't see Bournemouth defeating City. Matlab,
Yeah.
they won against Arsenal
Name
probably because
even
of that red card, but yeah, I don't really think they have the they have the resources to compete, not just compete, maybe to even nick something of City. So if at max a draw, but yeah, again I can see it as an easy win for City.
no, I think and especially City haven't lost in 32 Premier League matches. So matlab, I, and every year I think like City has it in them to go undefeated. मतलब हर सीजन
Yeah.
उनसे वो vibe तो आती है. And I think like Foden has been picking up some minutes, and I think he's due for like playing a crucial role. Haaland has been quiet in the last four matches, only a goal. So I expect those two to kind of pull them through. उनका वो player Matthias Nunes out of nowhere has started playing really well. So मतलब सिटी का वही होता है यार मतलब randomly players start doing really well मतलब and then they're like अरे हम हैं. But I think
Yeah.
losing to Tottenham मतलब was a bit of a shocker I think to them midweek. I think they have a very poor
Mm,
record at
mm.
वो.
But I think the team is also pretty. I mean, not the strongest team Pep put out. So
हाँ यार उनका true
ठीक है.
Matheus
Let's
Nunes.
probably
चलो.
call it
Yes, let's close buddy. Good. Looking forward to the Sunday game. Yeah,
yeah.
let's go. Ruud van Nistelrooy. Yeah. Mourinho was 9 years undefeated at home. उसका Chelsea manager at home record was just crazy. I think Chelsea was just unbeatable at home under Mourinho. And
And I remember they
any
lost to
team,
Sunderland of all teams at home.
अरे
And
Rupesh
that
bhai, what do you expect?
9 years was across two stints of management, not just two. I think you also include the Real stint, right?
Yeah,
Real and Inter. I
Ru-
mean, whatever.
रुपेश भाई, what are your predictions? मतलब बॉर्नमथ सिटी कुछ आप बताओ. But बाकी चलो, let's close. Look forward to the Sunday game and मतलब wishing
Yeah.
everyone again a happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali, everyone. Thanks for joining. Chalo. Good night.
Bye, buddy. Bye, bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.